Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee. Welcome if you're new. So today's video is going to be the first installment in my faith journey series, which is basically just me detailing different things in life, right? My life is just a walk of faith. And so I'm going to be sharing different testimonies that God has given me along the way. And so this first one is going to be about my friendship journey. And so I share this in hopes that this can provide some encouragement for someone out there, or even if you haven't gone through something similar to what I went through, that God can maybe even just reveal something to you that you're needing through this video. And so I know that what I went through, my situation, is not everyone's testimony, but it is mine. And so hopefully this can help someone out there. And so if you want to hear about that, then just keep on watching. So to start this off, I'm going to provide just a little bit of background about me and kind of me growing up and how friendship was. So growing up, I was never the person to be in the in crowd. I never cared for it. I didn't mind being alone if it meant doing something that I felt was right. And so I never just did something or went along with something just because someone else was going to do it, you know? So that was always me. However, when I was younger, I did have more friends, I guess you can say. And so it wasn't until I truly got saved and baptized when I was maybe like 10 or 11. And that was when I think God really started setting me apart. And so going into high school, I did have a best friend. And up until my junior year, or up until my senior year of high school, second semester of my senior year of high school, we were no longer friends. The friendship could not last, and I thank God because he knew that that friendship or that person could not go with me, especially in that capacity, with a closeness to me that she wouldn't be able to go with me where he was taking me, especially as he was going to grow me in my faith and my relationship and my closeness to him. You know, she was not a Christian. And so that it wouldn't have been able to last anyway. And so I thank God just revealing things to me about that friendship and giving me the courage to walk away and stand firm and be alone. Because after we were no longer friends, that second semester of my senior year, I was alone. I spent most of my time alone. I've always been a person that was always very much so involved. I've always been like the president of organizations, and I was an athlete. And so, you know, people knew me, people knew of me, right? People saw me when they saw me. But if you weren't truly close to me, then you didn't truly know me. You maybe just saw that, okay, I was involved, I was doing these different things, or maybe you just figured that I was just reserved. Because for those that don't know me, that's really the part of me that you see. And so I was alone, and I remember a specific time just being in the lunchroom, and I was literally at the table by myself because I didn't have friends, and I was going to eat lunch. Or times where I would spend more time in the bathroom because I didn't have anyone to hang out with. And so eventually I spent most of my time senior year in the career counseling center and just was working on college stuff for class. And I was really in there the majority of my senior year, especially because I don't think I had a full schedule. And once tennis season was over, that's where I was. And so I was already over high school, like done with high school, probably about my junior year. Like I was just like, I'm over it. I'm ready for college. And so, yeah, but I was alone. I spent that time alone. And I thank God for removing me from that situation, because ultimately it was for my good. And so I went on to college. And so freshman year, first semester, I was hanging out with a group of people. However, they just weren't the people for me. And so that kind of fizzled out and I stopped hanging out with them. And so second semester of college, I found myself alone. And that was the start of, or really senior year could have really been the start of my wilderness season. But I will say for sure, second semester was the start of the wilderness season for me. And I was truly in isolation. And one thing I wanted to know, I was excited going into college. I was going to be like, oh, this opportunity for me to meet people, to have community. And so I was excited for that, right? But second semester, I found myself, or God had me in a season of being in the wilderness and a true season of isolation. I didn't have community. And that time was the roughest time really of my life, honestly. My grandma passed the day after my 19th birthday, and I didn't have community, and I didn't want to be at the university I was at anymore. I didn't want to be there, and I was ready to go. So I was going to transfer to another university. I'm like, I would have a much better time there. I would have community. And the university I was at, it just didn't seem like it was for me. And so, like I said, that time was a really rough time. However, I'm so grateful for it because it ended up being the most transformative time, or one of the most transformative times in my life. That's when my relationship with God truly grew, like deeper, like a true relationship for myself as an adult. And I was really seeking God, crying out to God, fasting, praying, and going to church and having Bible study. And I'm so grateful because God placed in my life what I needed in that season to sustain me. It wasn't fully what I desired, but it was what I needed to get through. And so he placed in my life these group of amazing women who kind of took me in because they were all like a group of best friends, but they took me to church with them and I was a part of their Bible study. And so I really appreciated that because if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would have done. And so I'm so grateful for that because even through that's a whole testimony. Like God had me, like that was in that Bible study, that was the first time that I actually prayed out loud in front of a group of people in that way. And so, but he allowed them to be in my life. However, outside of that, like that time, I didn't have community. And I was really crying out to God and, like I said, fasting and praying on if I should even stay at the university. I had my letters of rec already, and I really just needed to send the application to transfer. And so, but I didn't want to leave just to take the easy route. I wanted to truly be where God had me because I know that I had purpose wherever he called me to be. And so I truly wanted direction from him. And during this time, I didn't feel like I heard the voice of God. And I was like, I want to hear the voice of God. And I didn't know that really, all of my life. I mean, he's been leading me and guiding me, but I just felt I didn't know what that was like, to truly hear the voice of God, So in that time, I really desired that and I needed that. And that really grew my relationship with God in that time. And so, I mean, I spent many, many nights, many days, crying, being alone, so many phone calls. And I remember I got a letter rec from a professor, and I literally broke down crying in her office. Like, it was a whole thing. There was a lot. There was a lot going on, but like I said, I'm so grateful, and I can laugh about these things now because God allowed me to get through them. But it was a really rough time in my life. However, God ended up sharing with me that I was supposed to stay there. I felt like I was supposed to stay there, even though I didn't want to, even though my situation hadn't changed. And I didn't like university, but I was supposed to stay there. And so I did. And he ended up giving me opportunities to just do what he had called for me to do. I ended up being the vice president of a Black women's org at the university. And eventually I became the president, until I think my senior year. But I was vice president of a Black women's org, and I really poured what I had into that group. And I think he prepared me for that, because he allowed me to go through something so that I'd be able to share with others. And so I wanted to provide that space for other women to have community, even though I personally still didn't have it for myself. And so I did that all throughout my time at university, as well as being a part of other orgs. And during my time at university, I tried meeting people. I tried, putting myself out there, being involved. I was already very much so involved. And, doing what people say to do, what you think would work, right? But one thing that I learned to embrace and accept is that, for one, when God has you in a period of, like, a season of being in the wilderness and isolation, you have to go through it. There's no shortchanging it. But also, when God has you set apart and he has you protected, anything that you do, it won't work. Like, I tried whatever I was trying to do, it wouldn't have worked. And that's something that I'm so grateful for now. When I was younger, I didn't understand it. Because I'm like, why me? Why is this not working out for me? Why am I not able to do these certain things? And not that I even desired to do many of the things, but it just wasn't a thing for me. And so, I tried putting myself out there, doing all of the things, trying to meet people, but if someone's not for me, God will not allow them to be in my life. And so I just couldn't force it. And once I truly surrendered to that, that's when he brought the divine connection into my life. And so it wasn't until second semester of my junior year, so the end of my junior year, and around this time I was looking into different grad schools, trying to find, do my research on which ones I wanted to go to, which ones I wanted to apply to, which one had, all the specs for, a good marriage and family therapy program. And so I was looking at this one in particular, which ended up not even being a contender. So that's it's funny. But I wanted to just look into that university to see if a grad student made like a YouTube video or just someone sharing their experience that went to the university. And so I was looking up like grad school videos or information about the program, and this person's YouTube video comes up about their graduation from the university, and not a grad school graduation, but just an undergrad graduation. And she graduated fall of 2019, and I'm looking this stuff up in May of 2021. So, but I just had to watch her video and it was a cool video. And so I go on her channel and I see that she makes like faith talk videos and just Christian related content. And I related to some of the things that she was sharing. And so I was like, wow, like I really enjoy her content. And literally the Holy Spirit, at the time, I don't know that I knew it was the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit was really tugging on me. Like I felt prompted to reach out to her. And that's not something that I would have done just by watching someone's YouTube videos, but I felt led to reach out to her. And so it may have been a few days later, I'm not sure, but I decided to reach out to her. And so I messaged her on Instagram and we started talking from there. I think on my original one, I just mentioned that I saw her videos, and just honestly, I was encouraging her to just keep moving forward in this journey, because it's definitely a journey. And then I saw that she was from the area, and yeah, I think we just started talking from there, because I did see that she was in like the surrounding area near me from her, like a title or description of her video. Like she had like her location in there. And so that was another thing that prompted me to reach out to her. And so we ended up like messaging, exchanging numbers, going out to brunch. And that was the start of the relationship, the friendship with my now best friend, which is a true divine connection, because it was truly God who orchestrated the whole thing, even down to, us going, like knowing similar people, or even going to like a church at different times. And just, there was so much, honestly, that we shared in common. And he allowed us to connect on our similarities at the time. And so, yeah, I was so grateful, and just how God did it. Like, we couldn't have met years prior, because we both wouldn't have been what each other needed. So, yeah, he really orchestrated that, and I'm grateful. And I realize now why I had to go through that time of wilderness in isolation. And so in this friendship now, God has truly used our friendship to get us both to where he has for us. Even moving the both of us to the same area, a whole different city. And he called both of us there individually. And like, he really orchestrated the entire thing. And so he's used this to, during that time of isolation, and this was a period of probably 3 or so years where I was in that season. And like I said, it was not easy, but in this time, he was preparing me. He was shaping me. He was molding me. And he taught me so much. And I grew in my relationship with him, like exponentially. And he really taught me about relationship. He taught me what faith truly is, what love truly is, forgiveness. I mean, so much. He really shaped my character in that time. And there was so much pruning, and pruning is never easy. It's never comfortable, but I learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So yeah, there was so much growth in that time. And then coming out of my season of being in the wilderness in isolation, he allowed me to finally be able to put into practice all the things that he taught me in isolation, what he had prepared me for. And I was ready, and so, there was so much that I can say, but I'm just extremely grateful for God's divine timing. He really orchestrates everything. And while that time was some of the roughest periods of my life, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it at all. And so I hope this provides some encouragement for just someone out there who is in that season of being in the wilderness or isolation, or just a time of just God really pruning them. It's tough. And when you don't have community, it honestly sucks. It really does, at least for me. And so I know what that feels like. And I just hope that you keep on going, keep on pressing, because God does have the divine connections for you, especially if you do not settle for less. I encourage everyone watching this video to never settle for less than God's will and his best for you. It will always be greater than what you can even think or imagine. And while you may be going through something right now, when he brings it, you'll be walking in the promises that he has for you, and that will be your reality. And so, yes, you'll be able to remember and reflect about how things used to be, but that won't be your reality anymore, at least for me. I'm so grateful now. I can remember how I felt, but I thank God that I went through it and that I got through it, and it was only by him. Because if I didn't have him, I don't know how I would have made it through. And so that time really shaped who I am now, and is how I am where I am today. And it was truly only by God's leading and guiding. And so I hope that this part of my testimony helps someone out there. And just know that what God has for you is for you. And it will come. Don't try to force anything. Just be obedient to him. Because I did have to yield to the Holy Spirit, even in me reaching out to her. And so I had to be obedient in that. And if I didn't, I could have missed, something that God had for me. And so be obedient, and you're not going to miss what God has for you. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Leave some comments down below if you have any suggestions for other videos that you want from me or anything like that. And so, love y'all. Bye.